All right, so week 8 in CIT93 JavaScript, and I've just finished most reviews at this point, and I can just tell you that for me, the code reviews are the most important thing we do in this class because it's really our way to first connect and then review your code, have a discussion about your code. So every time I go through this, it affirms for me why I feel it's important. And I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy, and life is often not easy. It's not easy from a scheduling perspective, but I feel it's so worth it. Which I guess I hope you do, but you may not at this point. But I just want you to know I do. So anyway, having been through this week, I just graded. I'm on Friday of week 7, and I just finished grading your work for week 7, Learn Together, and a couple items of feedback. One thing is we learned in this section, in this code along, how to use document.createElement. So for the few of you who were using on your button to actually do an alert, like that's not what we learned. So make sure going forward you have updated that because think about it, users will block any pop-ups. So if you're and alert is a command that is going to be what we call deprecated with JavaScript as it's evolving, because it's pretty much agreed in the industry that we don't use it. So going forward, don't use alert. The other thing is make sure you're following the code style for what I've laid out with Airbnb. And most of the time, what I see here is students aren't doing const, give a name to the function, equal function, and then the rest of the signature, whatever signature just means the way it's laid out. So just make sure going forward you do that, because I will start marking off points. I probably should have done it before, but just know that that's true. And you need to declare, right? Declare. That's why declaring these functions is really important too, so that you don't accidentally write over them. And it's just the way in modern JavaScript we do it. Now, a word about the style, right? So if you're working for somebody, even outside of the coding realm, they will have a certain way they want things done. And the reason I have a style guide that I use, that I'm leaning into the Airbnb one, is because that's a fairly standard one in the industry. And whenever you write code for someone else, which I hope you do in your lifetime, one of the first things you'll learn about is what their internal style guide is. And then you need to write to that. So by not paying attention to the style guide, you're missing out on those points. Okay. So I just wanted to kind of catch up with that. And really important is that you're learning dev tools, because a couple of you had hard errors. Remember, I went into the console and show you, in your code, you can see the squiggly lines, but you can also see on the console if there's an error. And remember, that stops the execution of your JavaScript. Okay. Way important to make sure you're getting those. Making sure you give me a good link. I had a couple of those, I think one. So just making sure all those pieces are in place for you to get most of the points. Okay, let me turn to something I just want to highlight. I said on the notes for the end of the semester, but before we get there, like I'm on the 23rd today, and if I roll forward into October, I just want you to see, because last week on week 7, I did put up the requirements for your next dev. Okay, so it is in the 27th of October, right? That's when it's due. Like this time, it'll run the same way, where sessions, again, don't wait to come see me. And that's the other thing, is don't wait to come see me. Because if you're waiting until the week of dev, which good, you can sign up for a session, please do. But it's really more advantageous for both of us if you're coming to see me along the way. Now, the reason I'm saying this is, if I was you, and I have been I have been a student of JavaScript as well. As we move into this next section of learning how to modify the DOM, learning how to do forms, right, and learning how to do local storage, which is all the things you're going to need for Dev 1. If I was you, I would implement these things as you're learning them after you finish the Learn Together. When I say implement, I mean into your Dev 1. Right? So take your Dev 0 code, which, by the way, for everyone, that should have been in a subdirectory under your private. So it should have been, your private repo dev, and then dev 0 should have been in there. And now you'll have a dev 1 that you will also have. So for those of you that didn't create that dev subdirectory, make sure you do. And also, I think a few of you got confused about the file name for your JavaScript at this point is app.js. It's not dev_0, it's app.js. Anyway, my larger point I'm going to recommend is, again, as you're learning all these new things, think about how you could then integrate them as we learn them into that dev 0, dev 1, because it will just be easier than trying to go back and remember all of it. Okay? Just my suggestion. Okay, so it's here, and then you'll have one more at the end of the semester, and that timeline at the end of the semester gets a little more, I don't know, challenging, but right. So it's here, and then we will have, because that's in November, starting into December, right? So you'll have it at the end of the semester here, which I believe then that will give us, it'll do here, and we'll have that same like sessions before and sessions after, but it will be due the first day of December of the semester. Okay. Okay, so now as we look forward to this week 8, we just continue learning more in the DOM, the code along, right? The instructions are here. Most of you are doing a great job about, if I have, some of you have been missing, and let's see if I'll just give you the heads up this time, right? There is a comment that I want you to do on the submission, right? So make sure you're catching that stuff. Most of you are doing a fine job on the actual commit names, which is great. I do give a little bit of break on this one because it's a little longer. So just FYI on that. Okay. That's pretty much the big stuff I wanted to say, but I actually need to pull my code for week 8, which, by the way, do you know that I post for, and maybe this is what I want to, is there anything you want to reply to that I've already said? Cool. But also, do you know I provide a link to my code, which I think you do, because I often see my code show up in yours, which, by the way, I shouldn't. I shouldn't be seeing the code that I write. Even the variable names, you should be coming up with your own. This is just part of coding, right? So if, for those of you that don't know, I provide the link to my code, and I provide a video going over that code, because I want you to continue to learn, by seeing just another way to do it. But also, that's why I have you reply to other students' code. And what I look for when you reply is actually, did you look at the code, and did you give any comment or feedback? The students, I see some of you giving troubleshooting, which is awesome. If somebody's submitted something, and there's an error on it, which, by the way, this week, because of code reviews, I didn't get to do as much in the discussion replies. Hey, that's the other thing I've wondered. Like, how does it feel for you when I give feedback in the discussion? I just want to make sure, like, if there's, and maybe you could message me directly if you're not even comfortable putting it in this reply. Like, I have other students telling me they actually like that I do that, because then they can see and fix some of the issues. Like, one of the issues I saw right away was people were taking all of their code for this week 7 and putting it inside the event listener, which is not the idea. You want to keep all that stuff structured the way you had it. Anyway, I think I've got a lot of topics, but anyway, that kind of stuff, it's also not necessarily a style thing, but it's just best practices. You don't want to have all your code setting in the event listener. It's just not a good way to do it. All right, that's it for me. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.